To piggyback on drafting, now we're going to go into editing and revising. And there's so many good grammar memes. I couldn't pick which one I wanted. But this, especially segueing in after dictation and speech to text, one of the most important things is going in afterwards and editing what was actually transcribed. And I find this is one of the other challenges. Students feel like, I wrote it, I'm done, I don't want to see it again. And kind of making them go back and dive into their writing and edit it and revise can be very challenging. So what I want you to think of and write in your notes, write a typically grammatically incorrect sentence you encounter in your students' work or professional life. So I just kind of gave an example here. There are many different ways to drive to school. You can take the highway, take the bus, or walk to school. My favorite way is to not go at all ever. So this is a classic run-on sentence that I feel like I see all the time with a bunch of students. I'm just going to copy this for the sake of our experience here. So what I want to show you is a couple of different editing and revising tools that I found. Now, again, to piggyback off of that student data privacy, Grammarly and Ginger software are two supports that are extremely helpful, but unfortunately are not student data privacy compliant. So most school districts will not allow you to download either of these extensions or apps because they use our students' data. So if you're not familiar with Grammarly, I just want to show you quickly what this one looks like. So here, what I want to show you is that it will allow you to copy and paste at this point in time into the Grammarly app, and then it will give you some options in terms of spelling, grammar, some homophones, some other suggestions. What I like about this is that it will, all you have to do is click on the word and it will automatically create it for you, automatically change it, as you can see on the screen. They have a beta version that is working in conjunction with Google Docs, but it's not fully up yet. I don't know if any of you are using it and your feedback on it. I haven't used it yet. I actually really like Grammarly when I'm doing Blackboard because my spelling is atrocious. So Grammarly I find is much better than Blackboard spell check if any of you are in that same boat as I am. Ginger software is an add-on to either Microsoft Word and iOS app. The Microsoft Readability Statistics is built into Microsoft Word, and I have students sometimes using this to self-monitor their writing. So it gives you a grade equivalent and a Flesch-Kincaid ease of reading score, and it's based on the syllables, the letters in a word, the syllables in a word, and the sentence length. But sometimes I'll say to my students, hey, like you're in 10th grade, I need writing to at least be leveled from Microsoft Word at an 8th grade level. If it's leveling you at 5th grade, you need to figure out how to increase the complexity of your writing. And it's just kind of a nice way to check their work before they bring it over to you. With the onset of Read and Write for Google and the use of Google Docs, we don't always need this, but for some students who are using Microsoft Word, there is a built-in text-to-speech tool on Microsoft Word for students to listen to their own writing. And that's often whenever I get writing evaluations and I look at editing and revising, my first recommendation is a student listen to their work themselves first. Because often as teachers, what's the first thing we do when a student hands us work that's grammatically atrocious? We read it out loud for them and we exaggerate. So we don't breathe if there's no punctuation. We do the wrong inflection if the punctuation is incorrect. And so even just using a text-to-speech tool as one guide before they go to the teacher can just kind of help to mitigate some of the issues that they might have. PaperRater is one that I like. I don't know if anyone's used this one before. This one is free. So you can upload a whole paper. You can copy and paste text in here. And what I like about it here is it asks some information about the text that it's interpreting. So it gives you grade level. It gives me type of paper as well. So am I doing a research paper, an essay? Just gonna do an article blog. It also does plagiarism. So one time I was demonstrating this for a student for an AT eval, and I was like, okay, give me a recent paper that you just handed in. And so we copy and pasted it into here, and it came out as like 99% plagiarized. And I was like, oh, did you hand this in already? And he was like, yeah, I got a good grade. And I was like, oh my God. So I tell his teacher, I was like, I'm pretty sure that paper was entirely plagiarized. So it's too short to have plagiarism detection there, but I like how it color codes it. So here, this is word choice. So as I click on the word, now the downfall is that it's not reading it out loud to me, but it is giving me some suggestions here. What I don't like is that it's not catching any of my my run-on sentence. So it's really not giving me any of that. But if I go to style here, it's saying you didn't really use transitional phrases since I put it in an article. I couldn't get a grade recommendation because of the length, but this is similar to the Microsoft Word readability. There are in the premium version, there is this human proofreader option. And where to next. So there are some other add-ons that they have within Paperwriter. But I think this one is a nice one, and then the students can just copy and paste out of here into whatever they're submitting their work from. So I think this one is fairly good. White Smoke is another app or software, and SAS Writing Reviser is a built-in Google Docs add-on. So this one works with Google Docs, because for those of you who are Google schools, you know that Google Docs grammar and spelling is atrocious. I did an evaluation recently, and the student had atrocious spelling, and Google Docs only identified 3 of her words out of the 20 that were spelled wrong. Only 3 of them had even underlined. It didn't recommend the right word, but it didn't even give her notification that they were spelled wrong, which for some students would be okay, but for a lot of students, it's a real challenge, the ineptitude of the Google Docs spell check. So SAS Writing Reviser is one good one that you can add on there. And then the final step is looking at publishing. And this kind of, I think, straddles the line of educational technology and instructional technology versus assistive technology. But sometimes just motivating students to publish their work in a wider setting or with flexibility, thinking of multiple means of expression from Universal Design, giving them some other options. So instead of writing a paper, can you demonstrate your understanding through the Make Believes comics or storyboard that? Or putting their writing into something like Storybird, where they can write a book, or even having them write a persuasive essay through Google Slides to make it a little bit more meaningful. Seesaw, Bouncy, and TinyTap are all like interactive creation tools. So what have you used? Have you used anything creative for students to publish their work? Was it successful? And kind of think about, can I be a little bit more open, and can they maybe publish their work to the wider world so that it's more meaningful and engaging to them? And then finally, what I want to look at is the motor supports. Fine motor supports are so important for a lot of students, and more often than not, they have this legibility issue where you can't read their writing. So SnapType is one of my most favorite iOS apps. What this app allows any student to do is that you can take a picture of any worksheet, and wherever you tap, you can insert text right on there. So unlike some of the other OCR recognition supports we looked at last week for our reading, this one doesn't read the worksheet out loud, but the student can insert text anywhere. The free version, the student can manipulate 3 different documents. The paid one, they can have unlimited. And in the paid one, the student can draw on it as well. But what I really like is that you can move around the text afterwards. You can zoom in. So really, if you have a paper handout, or if you have a graphic organizer with no lines, the student can then type, and on an iPad or an iOS device, they can use the dictation tool, which isn't enabled in this picture. But it really does give a lot of flexibility to electronically interact with paper-based resources. Kami is the Chrome app that does the same exact concept through a PDF. We looked at this one in the reading activity when we looked at Abdul and him being able to annotate. So I just wanted to bring this back up again as a good tool for students to electronically interact with paper-based. Little Writer and Write My Name are 2 handwriting iOS apps. I really like Write My Name because it allows you to insert custom words for students to work on handwriting. I hate this example because if you have a picture of your baby brother, I'm not going to learn how to write baby brother. I want to write their name. But you can add in, the student's name in their picture, mom and dad, any target words that the student is working on writing legibly. So I really like that option for Write My Name. And Little Writer is nice because it has in building letter work, it has some directionality and it's pretty motivating for some students. One of my disclaimers is that if you're using an iPad or a touchscreen to work on handwriting, I always tell teams to make sure the student has access to a stylus because they are drawing on the iPad with their finger. So it might be working on identification of letters, but it's not working on the fine motor and the muscle memory of actually writing the letter appropriately. So really making sure that they have a stylus available so that they can actually write and generalize that practice from the iPad to paper and pencil is really important. So that's kind of one of my soapboxes that I got on when you're practicing letters and writing on an iPad. Use a stylus. So that is really the AT supports for the writing process. So looking at pre-writing, drafting, editing, revising, publishing, and then my little outliers, my fine motor supports.